Dallas Famous podcast is supported by the Mullen & Mullen Music Project. The Music Project was created by Mullen & Mullen Injury Law Firm to champion the independent music scene in North Texas. I'm Andrew Sherman. I'm a Texas transplant who has always been in pursuit of art as a career. I've played in bands, pursued an acting career in Hollywood, but I found it behind the lens of a camera here in Dallas, Texas. I was born in New York, I've lived in Chicago, Los Angeles, Austin, but I love Dallas. There's a magical artistic scene in Dallas that mostly goes unnoticed to the outside world. This podcast is focused on what makes it so special and the people who make it thrive artistically. If you don't live here, and even if you do, you might not have heard of them. This is the Dallas Famous Podcast.
So who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all grown up? Who you gonna be? Who you gonna be when you're all for us? Yeah.
This week on the Dallas Famous Podcast, it's Dana Cobb, a dynamic force in the world of public relations and a passionate advocate for the arts. As the founder of the Vocal Group, Dana specializes in representing various aspects of the entertainment industry, including arts and culture events, celebrity appearances, and more. Dana's experience has allowed her to cultivate meaningful relationships that elevate pop culture in the Dallas area. In this episode, Dana shares her incredible journey from Broadway back to Dallas, becoming a renowned PR expert, detailing her connections with celebrities and the joy of facilitating memorable experiences for fans. Join us as we uncover how Dana combines her love for performance with her expertise in communications, making a significant impact in the Dallas art scene. Here it is. Hello. We're back at the Deep Elm Community Center, Dallas Famous Podcast. I've got Dana Cobb with me. She is, tell me what you do.
Sure. I have a company, a PR agency, the Vocal Group. We do mostly arts and entertainment PR. I am a fierce advocate for the arts. I am not born, but raised in Dallas, actually Plano.
Okay.
And yeah, it does. It does. Well, when we moved here in '84, Plano was merely a dot on the map, and I was a small dot in that dot, and now cut to however many years later. And so, yeah, I moved away, got married, and then ended up moving back to Dallas after a stint in New York doing New York things.
Yeah.
And so it's
we're
been
gonna
great.
Get to all of that,
yeah,
cool.
But anyway, that's me.
So you're basically, you've got a PR firm. That's your main thing right now.
That's what I've got.
That's it. But like you have a lot of excellent, awesome clients
Yes.
and fun clients, including you just did Fan Fest. And
yes, Dallas Fan Expo Dallas.
Yep.
So that's fine. It's Fan Expo Dallas. Listen, this is like I've been working with them for almost 10 years in different capacities. But from a PR perspective, it's always the most exciting and humbling experience when you have stars, agents, fans, everybody coming out of the woodwork to tell stories, to really embrace fandom, whether it's Broadway or anime or Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, all of these different things. It's an amazing company to be able to work for, Fan Expo, of course, but it's also really cool to see that type of activation and fun here in Dallas for a long 3-day weekend. It's exhausting. We just closed last night at 5:00.
Oh, what are you doing here today?
Exactly. I'm still kind of like, I don't know, how people have like they're punch drunk. Like I'm still a bit punch drunk from celebrity. I mean, I will tell you, and I will name drop with the best of them.
Go for it.
It is my job, but I used to say I do it like my job, but now it is my job. So this particular weekend, I had a lot of really cool experiences, and one of my favorite people who I was not as familiar with in advance of this past weekend, but now I'm very familiar with his work. He is a man named Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias. He's a comedian, and he is he's just sold out a gig at Dodger Stadium.
Oh, wow.
And he is, funny, because he's a comedian. I mean, he's like one of the top 5 earning comedians. I have
heard of him. I guess never the fluffy part. That's
fluffy, yeah. He was, and from a fan standpoint, he was so wildly accessible, so kind, and he also was really great with us in doing press. So he got up early, squirrely in the morning on Friday morning, and was on early morning TV with us, and just kept really kind of showing up and really being an overall nice guy. And he actually lives here in Texas. He does not. He sold his residence in Los Angeles, and he won't tell people where in Texas he lives because he doesn't want people knocking on his door, but he does go up and down 35 whenever he comes to Dallas to go and see, go to Buc-ee's in Temple.
He makes like trip to Buc-ee's specifically?
Yes. Yeah. Well, this last time he got a plushie, excuse me, of one of the beavers because he has a 5-month-old Chihuahua and he wanted to get a little outfit for his Chihuahua. So he bought the plushie, took off the outfit and put it on his Chihuahua. And I assume he probably has like a trunk full of like nude plush animals
Okay,
at this
that's
point.
hilarious.
With all of the robing of his Chihuahua, because I believe he has a couple. So
Oh, nice. That's hilarious. I mean, that's cool. Like, I guess I've been to like an anime festival. I haven't done a lot of the festivals. That's like, it's like every kind of celebrity or whatnot could be at the event. That's cool.
Oh my gosh. Well, and that's what's really cool. And of course, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I've been talking about Fan Expo, but I truly believe it. It's not just me plugging for the sake of plugging. It is a really unique experience where people can belong, like anybody of any fandom or any age. There is just a overall wash of I don't know, like belonging, of acceptance, of just excitement and creativity amongst 60,000 other people that are kind of just like you. And, you know, somebody had said, and this was not me quoting me, but somebody said the Shrek, let your freak flag fly. And, you know, that I don't want to ever put a negative connotation, but it really is kind of amazing how people just let themselves be themselves.
Yeah.
And then also get complimented and get photographed and be on a cosplay red carpet. And it can be somebody, you know, who's dressed up as Beetlejuice or somebody who is, you know, dressed up as the dog pool, or, you know, there's
Right.
like anywhere,
Yeah.
whether it's a Marvel or Broadway, an anime, you know, Hero Academia, any of these really cool and engaging brands or storylines or whatever. It just, there's something really amazing. And, it always really inspires me. And I always saying I had a really inspiring interaction with Mr. T. And when he was here, and he is a unicorn of a human. I grew up, obviously, you know, don't pity the fool, stay in school, all the things, war on
I was
drugs.
an A-Team fan, I admit it.
Oh, well, why couldn't you? The only problem with the A-Team is my parents were a little strict, and at some points, even at that age, they thought it was a little too violent.
Nobody died, but yeah, I get it.
But they also wouldn't let me watch The Dukes of Hazzard. I mean,
okay, that's extreme.
Which is funny though, because I actually, when I was doing marketing for Broadway shows in New York, we did 42nd Street, and Tom Wopat was one of the people, because there's, you know, star casting whenever shows, whether
absolutely.
it's here on the road, or sorry, New York or on the road. They'll do stunt casting, star casting. And for 42nd Street, we did a lot of that. And so you kind of can gauge the ticket sales based on the level of celebrity that they plug in to any particular show. One show we worked on was Urinetown. And that opened in 2001. It was supposed to open September 13th of 2001 in New York, but it was pushed a little bit, obviously. And Urinetown, we brought in some star casting. Tom Cavanaugh was, I mean, and that was when he was on Ed. I mean, and of course, all of these things. So what's so funny, though, and I'll tell you this, is all of these worlds kind of colliding, is Tom Cavanaugh has been a guest of Fan Expo while I've been working on it at least 2 times. And I met him for the first time when I was 24, doing PR and marketing for Urinetown in particular. And it's kind of the same thing with 42nd Street, you know, all the star cast. So now Tom Wopat and John Schneider individually have also come through the doors of Fan Expo. So it is ultimately, I guess now that I'm thinking about it, Fan Expo as a client, but also as, you know, an organization I've been working with and feeling very advocating for in the general populace, is a wild full circle moment now that I think about it. And speaking of full circle moments, when I walked in here today at the Deep Ellum Community Center, for anybody who is old school Dallas, and I am absolutely dating myself here, my first job out of college, so I went to SMU. My first paying job out of college, let's say, was in this building at what was then the Met magazine.
Right. Yeah.
And it was, you know, I started in 1998. And it's really surreal to walk in here and be like, I said, oh, that's where the classified advertising department was. And Rand Stagen, that he was a publisher, that's where his office was. And at the time, Tim Rogers was Mr. Funny Guy, and he did his column. A gentleman named David Blend was a writer, and he's up in New York now. And he wrote, he was one of the founders, I'm not sure, of Thrillist. And it's just really kind of cool to kind of see where this building, perhaps not into itself, is a bit of a launch pad for people, whether it's, writing, acting, music, and it kind of has continued that tradition here in Deep Ellum. So, that's
wild, man. I have like 50 questions just from everything you said. We're going to get into your history, but I want, like, since we started Fans Fest, I'm just like, so your job at Fan Fest, are you like booking talent? Like, what do you do exactly?
So what's great is that the position for Fan Expo has evolved. Basically, our agency is the local agency of record for the 3-day long event, and also the event in the fall in the Irving Convention Center. It's usually in October, which is a smaller event. It's kind of a mini-me of Fan Expo. So we work those two events to promote them in advance using PR, using press, earned media, and influencers, which we're working with a lot now, on just generating buzz in advance to help sell tickets. That is kind of the foundation of what we're tasked with. Well, in that is also managing the media on site, any interviews now, and kind of wrangling, coordinating between agents, managers, management of Fan Expo, marketing, and really just being the local expert on things like, Fan Expo is very, very and wants to be involved in the community. So it's engaging with different community organizations that are nonprofits. So I am also work as a liaison with organizations like Broadway Dallas, who are featured at Fan Expo. They have a booth. They sell merch for donations because Broadway Dallas is a nonprofit. And
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. As a presenting arm, Broadway Dallas, as touring Broadway shows come through, obviously there's ticket sales and things like that. But the presenting organization, Broadway Dallas overall, is the nonprofit. And so that's why, they continue to raise money, especially in this day and age when the performing arts are looking at funding deficits that are could crater the performing arts, generally speaking.
Oh, yeah.
It's even that much more important when you also don't have, the overall support. Then everybody's also clamoring for the same dollars. So for instance, and this is such a tangent, but for Broadway Dallas, they had Back to the Future, the musical here in the spring. Well, we had the cast of Back to the Future 40th anniversary gathering on Friday night. So Michael J. Fox, Chris Lloyd, Tom Wilson, who was Biff, Elizabeth Shue was on Friday night, and Leah Thompson came this weekend. But what we did is that we did a silent auction giveaway for Broadway Dallas, where the person who got it was able to have a unique once in a lifetime opportunity. But the money that was raised for it was donated back. It was for Broadway Dallas.
Right, okay.
So also engaging with the community partners. Broadway Dallas Girl Scouts of Northeast Texas is another local organization that we partner with. This year, I believe that they did badges for girls in entertainment badges. And a lot of times we also try and educate people about the different components of entertainment that aren't just being a celebrity or a voice actor. Places that are not in front of the camera, but also, just the mass amount of work and people that go behind an entertainment product. And a lot of times what people see, especially, with Fan Expo, is they see the celebrities. They want to have their, hoverboard signed, or they want to have their huge, there's somebody who was getting a Jennifer Beals Flashdance poster signed. And it's just so cool.
Jennifer Beals was there?
Jennifer Beals, yeah.
Oh God, I had such a crush on her.
Oh, well, you want to know who else was there? Heather Locklear.
Oh, well, so I have met Heather. I was friends with her standing in LA, so we've met.
Oh, well then, yeah. She's beautiful.
Yeah, she was beautiful. Yeah, up close, she's even more beautiful than you'd think. Yeah.
Oh, she was there. Heather Graham. I'm thinking about the Priscilla Presley.
Okay.
Christina Ricci,
I don't
Kristen
know if I can handle
Shaw.
myself. It's like all of my old, like when I was younger.
Yeah, it was definitely a feast for, and I say it's a feast for all, feast for all ages, but you know what I mean? It really everything from, Orlando Bloom and John Cena were there.
Okay, yeah. So it's a little bit for everyone, not just for the guys. Right,
and then the guy who voiced Barney. So, which is also wildly relevant to Dallas.
Well, how so? I don't know that connection.
So Barney was born and raised as a TV show here in Allen.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the woman, there was a stay-at-home mom, and I'm sorry I don't know her name, but she was the mastermind behind Barney, and she was watching children's programming, and she thought that there was a hole. And she created the role of Barney, I Love You, You Love Me. And it was cast here out of Dallas. In fact, I believe Selena Gomez was in the original cast of the kids cast of Barney. Yeah.
That's wild. Okay.
And that was all in Allen, Texas.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to have to track that down at some point.
Yes.
All right. Let's go back, because a lot of times I have like performers and they're playing music and I'm like, when did you start playing music? Like with you, it's different. So like what, like in your early life, was there something that like started you on this path? Like,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was always a Broadway baby. So my first Broadway show I saw in, my folks are from New York. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So,
Mine too.
Yeah. So that was all of my aunts and uncles, everybody. So my parents moved down here in 84. But we went back to New York all the time.
New York to Texas. That is extreme.
Well, this was the last stop of many stops. My father was in the Army.
Oh,
and
okay.
so,
Gotcha.
so I lived in New York when I was little, New York, Pennsylvania, Iowa. I was born in California, Northridge, and then settled. I say I settled as an 8-year-old. I was a wise, mortgage-having, Lexus-driving 8-year-old here in the big Plano, Texas. And my mom actually, in 86, and I'm so sorry, I'll bring it back, because of her connections, and she was a realtor. She actually was one of the leads on the JCPenney move from their headquarters from White Plains to Dallas, and she was handled a lot of the executive level relos, and it was a Plano, New York connection. So, and that was definitely a very lucrative position to be in the 80s, and then subsequently moving on. So, anywho. So we went to New York a lot to go visit family. My first Broadway show was Annie. And at that time, I believe, I'm fairly certain, I mean, I have the soundtrack, and Sarah Jessica Parker was in it. There's another, I can't remember who it was. Andrea McArdle.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And which is funny because then I've since met her as like an adult and different things. And
I probably saw that same tour of Annie, because I was like, but it was in Chicago, but it was, I think it was the same time. But it's funny because like I was just telling my 9-year-old that that's why I started playing piano. I came home from Annie and started plinking the songs on the piano. So that's interesting. That's your first show too. Yeah.
Well, I think it's of an age, it's just like, and it was, I mean, it's totally inspiring, and I love, and of course back then Broadway was a little bit more accessible price point wise and things like that. It was just a little bit more part of the general conversation rather than, has and has nots, have and have nots, or just, tourists. But so that was where I first started being like, oh, this is really great. And then at the time we lived in Iowa and we lived in Des Moines. My mom enrolled me in a class called Leap in Lizards at the Des Moines Center for the Performing Arts or whatever. And it was great. And I was bit by the bug. So then I did theater all through junior high school, and I was bound and determined to go to college to study theater. And I auditioned, and it turns out that I am not that good. Oh, no. I'm not
Says
terrible.
Who?
Well, no, and it's not that like I can't act my way out of a bag. I certainly can. I do that for work, but in a different capacity. But it was really just, there are just people that are just better, and there just are. And when you are looking at it as a career choice, and if you mentally, physically, or whatever, if you cannot live without it, if you cannot do anything else in your life and be satisfied, then be an actor, then go with God.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of things that I wanted to do, and it didn't negate my love for the performing arts or my love for Broadway. It just forced me to be like, well, what else can I do? So
I wish I had figured that out. Like, it took me 30 years to figure that out, by the way. I was trying a very long time. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, everybody does. I mean, listen, like I was like, okay, if I'm going to make a choice, clearly I'm not cut out for it, and I don't want to spend, my 20s and 30s trying to make it unsuccessfully. But if I can't do that, then why don't I just be theater adjacent? Like, why don't I be performing arts adjacent? What is it that I could really do? So I went to SMU and went into the arts marketing, public affairs, corporate communication. But just because of the nature of who I was and my social group, I was still kind of part of the theater crew. And there at SMU, especially at that time, I'm not entirely sure how it is now, but it's definitely a very insulated crew. The Meadows School of the Arts people are Meadows people. It's not necessarily general population of SMU.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It's
That's usually
people.
how theater is
Yes.
in colleges. Yeah.
And that's not taking anything away from the SMU. I mean, obviously I'm a big fan of Go Ponies, but
They think you're weirdos. I mean, I was a theater kid too. I know it. No, you don't got to hide it. We're different, and they knew it. Especially here, I think the divide was probably bigger. Right?
oh, yes.
Yeah.
And it was, but I was able to straddle the two because I was still PR major. I still was in a sorority. I did all of the things. But then, like, my friends were the weird theater people, and so I was really happy. I was able to have my cake and eat it too. And then my first internship when I was in college was actually at the Undermain Theater down the street.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So that was in 1996. I interned there in arts marketing. And so I kind of like knew, I was like, okay, but, and of course I could still, make money doing marketing. So then I was working, I graduated and I was working here in this building. And long story short, I was afforded an opportunity at a theater festival in Massachusetts called Williamstown Theater Festival. And it's on the campus of Williams College, which is in North Adams, Massachusetts, with the western side of the state. And it was doing PR for their season. So Williamstown, in a nutshell, they do 11 maybe 8 shows. Let's just say 8 shows over an 11-week period during the summer. And each show runs 2 weeks. There's a main stage and a Nico stage. And there's a big stage and a smaller stage. And they have a really unique model in that at that time, and they still do, and this isn't official, like it's not a strategy, but they primarily cast the leads, or the leads are cast out of New York and LA with actors that are on hiatus from their gigs. So again, this was in 1999. And so there was no streaming. There was the 26, week episode schedule. And then everybody went off on hiatus for certain times during the summer.
Yeah.
So the year that, so I was hired to do PR as part of a PR team, marketing team. And the year that I was up there, it was announced. So Gwyneth Paltrow won for the Oscar for Shakespeare in Love in March, and then she was started at Williamstown in As You Like It in June. And so Gwyneth Paltrow was in that with a gentleman named Alessandro Nivola was playing her love interest in As You Like It. We did Camino Real, which had Blair Brown and Ethan Hawke.
Blair Brown. I just saw a commercial with him. I was like, I can't think of his name. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, no, Blair Brown was the Days and Nights of Molly Dodd, the redhead.
Oh.
You're probably thinking Blair Underwood.
I am. But
yes.
Thank you for that.
No, but that's okay because I made that mistake. And so, and then we did. Oh my gosh, Taming of the Shrew with Roger Rees and BB Newirth. We did a show called The Glimmer Brothers with David Schwimmer and John Spencer when he was on The West Wing. And I actually went down to New York and picked up David Schwimmer from the Ritz-Carlton and drove him because it was only about a 2.5-hour drive. And it was the summer that between let's just say Ross and Rachel were on a break.
Okay.
So it was so funny because we're in the car and I'm trying to, milk any information because I'm a super fan, but I got to play cool.
Right.
And he didn't even know, because I was like, oh my gosh, how's it going to work out? But it was probably driving up with him and having to get gas and going through upstate New York over to Massachusetts and seeing how people reacted to him was really, I think probably helped me gauge celebrity reaction in the general populace as somebody who's handling that, and that taught me a lot about how celebrities handle people saying, "Can I have your autograph?" And in particular cases, some stars will say, "Well, if it's a kid, I'll do it, but if it's an adult, because otherwise,
sell it or something."
Exactly, or it's just also time. This weekend, Mr. T's manager just kept telling me it takes 2 hours to get through the airport, just because he stops and he talks to people and he takes pictures. And that's wonderful, but you just have to time
get to
it.
the airport 4 hours.
Exactly. And so it's little things like that you just don't know. And so that was, so I was able to learn a lot that summer. And like I said, I could name drop even plenty more names, but, in fact, I made friends with a gentleman. There's a bar up there. Well, there's a non-equity company, that almost were actors from New York that weren't famous. Like, I mean, obviously you've got the lead roles, like,
Sure.
but you have, 14 other roles, and it's an amazing opportunity. And one gentleman I made super close friends with and met him often, and his name is and was Sterling Brown, and he was part of the non-equity company. And of course, like he's Sterling Brown, who's on, what's the show that we're watching? Well, and he was on This Is Us. Oh my God, there's another show that we're just now watching, Paradise. And he was up there. A gentleman named Jimmy Simpson was in the non-equity company. Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny was in the non-equity company. Catherine Hahn was in the non-equity company, and these are all people that were underlings that were all like supporting roles. And I would say, actually, now I'm thinking about it, I guess that was sort of my role, but within the PR, where it's like you cut your teeth and you cut them hard and fast there. And also because I was in PR, I also was managing the press out of New York. So there was whether it was Liz Smith from Page Six or a gentleman named Michael Riedel, who was a theater columnist, or somebody from the New York Times, they all had to come through us. So it was gatekeeper. And some of the journalists were much more interested in the gossip, the behind the scenes gossip with all these stars.
Sure.
So it's really kind of managing that. So to answer your question, that's probably where I cut my teeth and was able to marry my passion for the performing arts and love for theater with, honestly, celebrity. And it's like a thing that I love, but I'm also competent at it. So after that, I was able to get a position for a company in New York called the Dodgers, not the Dodgers,
Right.
not the baseball
or like
team.
the Brooklyn Dodgers,
Not
like the
the
original, like the dodging of the trolley cars, right?
Well, it's actually Broadway producers, the Dodgers, who were named themselves in homage of the Brooklyn Dodgers when they moved to LA.
Right.
So, so then the first show I worked on doing marketing for that was Footloose the Musical in 1999, high art. And but it was great.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's Footloose. And one thing that I worked on with my boss, a woman named Amy Wagler, who's a VP of PBS now, and we still keep it, and it's great. But she and I worked. It was when the boy band craze was starting or was happening, and so we worked with Vogue, Cosmo Girl, and we got a whole spread, and we created a boy band out of the guys from Footloose the musical called Footloose 5. And because in order to sell more tickets, it started to have its run, so we did like a mini concert after every show with the Footloose 5, and we marketed these 5 guys, and we got them on morning TV and got them on the Today Show. We tried to kind of like what's O-Town? What's that? Lou Pearlman. We tried to Lou Pearlman the Footloose 5 guys, and it worked. I mean, it probably bought like another year of ticket sales because we created a fandom of these guys that would come, and then the teen girls would come see the show and then stand and wait at the stage door and create a vibe. And so it was really kind of using celebrity or relevance to help drive ticket sales, which is exactly what I do now. And so that was back in Footloose, and then the other shows, like I said, worked on 42nd Street, Urinetown, worked on Into the Woods with Vanessa Williams. I mean, just really, really cool shows. And then, New York has a way of telling you when it's done with you. And, so, I got married up there. My husband is an actor, but he also worked at Clear Channel, which was at the time competing Broadway producer, and so he worked in the business there. But then he actually was in a country western band when we lived in New York. So he and his friend. So my husband's named Cameron. His friend is Cody Newton and Reen, and they created a band called Fort Bragg, and it was a country western band in New York, and they did really, really well.
Yeah, they probably didn't have a lot of competition. Right?
No, they were like regulars at the rodeo bar. They played at CBGB. They played at the Knitting Factory, Hogs and Heifers.
Wow, okay.
They were. It was a very cool way to spend my 20s, where we're out until 4 a.m, dancing on bars at Hogs and Heifers. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I did. Or, no, it was not Hogs. It was. I was trying to think if it's Coyote Ugly, but no, it was. And nothing, untoward. But, doing that because you have all the energy, and then waking up bleary-eyed, getting to work, doing fun stuff for Broadway shows, getting invited to all of the parties because we were poor. We had no money. Obviously, those are two of the same things. But we would show up anytime that there was catering. I would be there. So I mean,
yes.
yeah. Oh, so you've got opening night parties because we both worked in the industry on the business side. We were both on the guest list.
Yeah.
And so it made it a lot more easy way or satisfying way to enjoy New York in your 20s on a shoestring.
Yeah.
And because we used to say you have your $20 leave your front door tax when you live in New York. I'm sure now it's like about a $50 leave your front door tax, but no matter what, So anyway, so we decided that if we wanted to start a family, we were going to move to New Jersey. We were going to move to Long Island. Our daughter was going to live in a drawer because we lived in Chelsea.
Yes.
Because that's, or we could consider coming back to Texas. And it was pretty clear that it was time to come home. And so we came home and then since then, I mean, I could keep talking forever.
Yeah. Well, you came back and I mean, how long from the time you came back to the time you actually started your own
a long time. There was a good, so my daughter, like my daughterhood.
Okay.
So I actually had a couple of different, not careers. I worked for a PR agency when I first moved back down here. And then I worked for a home builder actually. And then got pregnant. Our daughter Quincy was born. And then I started working as the marketing director for the AT&T Performing Arts Center when it opened in 2009.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And so that was another way of being application of, because it was doing marketing for touring Broadway shows through Dallas, obviously doing, some celebrity PR with that, but also all of the one night engagements or the engagements through at the Wynn Sphere at Straus Square. So managing, the marketing for whether it's Joan Rivers when she came through or Jerry Seinfeld. So that was an amazing, again, application of celebrity marketing and in my hometown. And so, my folks are still, or my mom is in Plano. And at the time it was great because, there was one night we had Alec Baldwin doing a panel, and it was Jody Dean was actually the gentleman who was running the panel, and I brought my mom and my dad, and they were. I mean, I have all these pictures with them, with Alec Baldwin, and then another time we had the cast of Modern Family, the cast and the creatives of Modern Family, Steve Levitan and Eric Stonestreet and Jesse, and like I was like, I brought my husband. I was like, I mean, I was able to, without fangirling or taking advantage in a negative way of the opportunity. I was also able to kind of share the love and access to people and creatives with my family and friends. And obviously, that's something that you can't ever replicate those memories.
Yeah. I mean, and that access and it's cool. Like I got to take I wasn't even there, but I got to send my mom and dad VIP to Peter, Paul and Mary once, and I was their favorite. So it was like they got to meet them, and well, actually they had Mary over for dinner in the 70s or 60s or something. I don't know the whole story, but yeah, but it's cool. It's cool to be able to do that. Like when I moved here from LA, it took me a minute, but like I felt like this is the Wild West in the sense that you can kind of just figure out your creativity, your creative path and run down it. And it sounds like is that what your experience was as well? Yeah.
I mean, in retrospect, yes. At the time, I guess I was oblivious, which is also better because then you have a lot more,
you're fearless, right?
You're fearless. Yeah. I was like, I have no shame. I mean, at this point, like before when I was shameless, I just covered up having wild imposter syndrome. Now I'm just shameless, generally speaking, because I'm like, I don't have time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a exercise in relevance and creating your own hierarchy of import.
Sure.
And so, so it's definitely, I love the idea of giving back. I think generally speaking, I try and be a really nice person.
Yeah, that helps.
And it really does. And that can't be undersold, especially when it comes to family and friends.
Yeah.
And
so let me interrupt.
Yeah.
So like at what point did you say, I should just start my own agency?
I'd been working adjacent. I had been doing freelance, had worked with other agency. And then I actually, I didn't realize it at the time, but I went off on my own here's what happened. My husband and I actually refinanced our house. And we were going to do major repairs and do all this stuff. But what it also did was we kind of pumped the brakes on it when I was like, well, we have a little bit of a financial freedom. and at this point, like maybe this is where the shift happens. And so that was at the very end of 2017. Then, so I started, like, went back to the undermain. Hey, do you guys need PR? At that point, I guess Rainbow Vomit had called on me from somebody else, and they needed PR. There was another gelato. Oh my gosh, Bodolino gelato was opening, and I had a connection with them. So I really kind of just worked my connections and was like, okay, I can cobble together enough income with this safety net. Mm-hmm. That it's like, we're not going to re-drywall our living room. We're going to make sure that I can pay the mortgage and still be happy.
Yeah.
And that was the choice. And so it was really positive. And that was, so that all started at the beginning of 2018. And then my father actually had a stroke in October of 2018. And at the time, I didn't know how important it was that I was available. And
right.
And he survived for about 18 months after that, and right at the very beginning of COVID, he passed away in June of 2020. So, again, kind of going back and looking in retrospect, I'm so happy that the choice was made that I was able to spend that time with my father and my family, and really, just love on people, and so. And in fact, my maiden name is Vokalek. And after my dad's stroke, we had a lot of time, like in the hospital. And because literally immediately after his stroke, he was in the hospital for a while, but my sister and I would go and we'd take shifts with my mom, of course. And I was working on business development. I was like, well, what am I going to call it? Like, what is this? Like, I was just like Dana Cobb,
Sure,
PR aficionado or something, whatever. Something is self-titled. And then I was like, oh, but what about the vocal? Like, I'm being vocal and Vokalek. So the agency is the vocal group.
It's a perfect fit, and the homage makes it even cooler, actually.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad's super happy. The only problem is sometimes, because I'm so used to typing in Vokalek, I often like autocorrect myself, and I'm like, no, it's not Vokalek, it's vocal.
Right.
And so now, 7 years later, we have obviously, amazing clients, Fan Expo. I work with, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, how long did you have the agency before people were just coming to you from the reputation? How long did that kind of take?
It was pretty, thankfully, it was not a long time.
Okay.
There was kind of some clients that or not even clients, some people, friends, family that had learned that I was on my own, but the fact that the connections that I've made over time. So whenever one of the first people that contacted me was somebody who was doing a touring show that was coming through Dallas, and they're like, and then my friends over. So even I had departed AtPac, but there were still people and programmers at AtPac or even in Granada or at Music Hall or anywhere. They were like, oh, have you worked with Dana? And I did. Before going into straight up PR, I was more kind of omni-channel marketing. But now I really have been able to whittle that down to earned media and PR. Okay. It's great because I like to consult not consult, like advise on marketing as knowing what sells here in Dallas. And so that also kind of is kind of like a gift with purchase when somebody from out of town comes and they're like, hey, can we hire you to do PR? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to tell you though, if you're doing something wrong when it comes to your general marketing, or I'm going to make suggestions, or I'm going to connect you with, our community manager with Yelp, because that will really help you, or even though it's a little bit out of our scope of responsibility, I still think that that's important. And honestly, it always comes back. I will tell you everything, good, bad, and ugly. It does, but typically the good, it does come back. Yeah. And I've been really, really quite lucky.
Okay, awesome. So when did the KERA part start? Okay,
this is really funny. So when I was doing when I was at AtPac, when the Broadway shows come through, in particular, a lot of times the presenting organization will partner with a local NPR station, and so when Les Miserables was coming through, we did and it was coinciding with the KERA pledge drive. So when you see the pledge drives, they're like, if you call in now, you can get 2 tickets in Section D of the December 14th performance at the Majestic Theater. Well, we they always like to have people that represent the show as on air, as, you know, because it legitimizes, and also it's just, you know, don't always want to see the same people pitching for donations. So they said, well, can somebody from Les Miserables come? And I was like, well, I'm here, and I like to see myself on TV.
You did pitch yourself to the show.
I did.
I'm sorry there's no video yet.
No,
but.
that's okay. Now I am, like I said, I'm shameless, but it's also like a matter, it's an ego thing. Like, I don't know. And now I can admit it. At the time I was just like, oh, me? You guys want me? And so that was the first time I pitched for KERA, was with Les Miserables. And that was, I think, 13 or 14 years ago. And it just went well. Like, it was, you know, they have a teleprompter, but I'm also good off script. And so they asked me back, but not necessarily in the capacity as the marketing director for AtPack. And then that just kept going on and on. My favorite time at KERA that I'm thinking about right now is when Idina Menzel was on her, on a tour, a concert tour. And this was before Frozen. So again, dating myself, but it was after Wicked. And so Idina was coming into the studio, and I was the person that they would call for the Broadway stuff for obvious reasons, because I could talk about it like, you know,
sure,
like it's my job. And but so I had a 3-hour pitch session with her where, you know, the interstitials that would show her in concert and stuff, and then we'd talk about the tickets. But it was really more of like a Regis and Kelly moments more than anything. And we were laughing so hard. It was like the old friends, because obviously you have a lot of connection, but she was just telling me about how she predicted her future again. And she's like, I'm just going to be sitting in some Vegas smoky room, totally head to toe green, singing Defying Gravity for the rest of my life. And I was like, oh my God. And if we would have known then. And I'm like, oh, isn't there a movie called Frozen coming out?
Right. Yeah, that changed things a
It
little.
totally changed things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is funny. And I do have a DVD of that particular segment, because I was just like, and the part when she was talking about that, we were laughing and she laugh snorted. And I was like, the only other time I made anybody laugh snort was Tim Curry in an elevator in New York. And those two moments, I'm like, I think I'm actually funny. Idina Menzel and Tim Curry both laughed at me. And I don't think they were just being polite.
Yeah, you don't snort to be polite. That's for sure. So what is your actual connection with KERA now?
Now I'm a volunteer. I'm an on-air volunteer. So whenever they, and so after I, was no longer working at AtPack, they still kind of kept me on their short list of people. And so they have, I pitch with Bill Young all the time from VP of Programming for KERA, and we've formed a friendship, and it's just easy. And honestly, it keeps me sharp when it comes to thinking on the fly. Honestly, it also keeps me in the face of people. So when I see somebody, I'm not saying that people recognize me, but because they don't, and they shouldn't. But if I'm somewhere and somebody says, you look familiar, there's already there's already a warm open that
Right.
I didn't plan on.
Right. And
so it makes selling myself as a friend, as a colleague, as a business partner, it makes it a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. It's not just a cold open.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
It's already there. It's already warm. And so, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, that is not. It's a benefit that I've seen. It wasn't necessarily the reason to do it for KERA.
Sure.
And especially now, again, how important it is to support local, the local performing arts, but also programming, like NPR and PBS. So now it's even more important than ever. And so they keep calling me,
Yeah.
and I keep telling my friends and family to tune in.
Yeah, awesome. We're getting near the end, but this has been amazing. I feel like we just started talking 2 seconds
we
ago.
did.
Right now, what sort of, if people wanted to reach out to you to
Sure.
get help with you, what do you have to offer for people?
Absolutely. So, it's really good because I am a collector of people. So ever since, college, high school, even, in New York and here, I like connecting people to impart positivity and sales and revenue. And so if any, I always have told people who I know that are either looking for a job or looking for a partnership, go to my LinkedIn, look at, anybody who I might know on LinkedIn. If you want an intro, I can do all that. Those are for family and friends. Generally speaking, though, I like to think that the things that we do that help elevate pop culture, or any sort of activities that get people out of their homes here in Dallas is good. The vocal group is the agency. We do a lot of work with earned media, of course, and I said with influencers. And really it's just a matter of just kind of getting people to know about products. And we don't necessarily, one thing is I will say this, that we don't work with startups. That's a thing that I have made as a rule, because I think that people, when they have their baby, they hold it so close, and I don't ever want to be of any disservice to that baby. And so that's just not something that we do, is startups. And but I'm very, impressed with everybody who starts their own, innovation and companies. Currently, we work with Fan Expo, work with Soul Man's Barbecue. I've been working with them for 13 years, and I love Soul Man's. It's such an amazing family-owned organization, family owned and operated, and they've grown, and they just celebrated 50 years, which is crazy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And work with the Light Park, which is drive-through holiday lights display, Tianu Lights Festival. There's just really kind of cool things. And then, I like to go to concerts. I like to go to shows. Oh, yeah. You'll see me out and about.
Yeah. Well, now that I know your face, I'll recognize you if I'm not too busy.
Yeah. Well, you're busy. That's.
Yeah. I don't really enjoy shows. I work, but yeah.
I know. Well, and that's it. Yesterday, I was at Fan Expo, and there was a bit of a downtime, and I was able to because we had people working the media desk, and so, but I wasn't having to set up a journalist with an interview or having to, make something happen. And I just sat and watched everybody and just looked at people having fun. And I was just like, as though I was an attendee. And a lot of times, I guess we lose sight of that. People say, "Oh, you have the best job. You get to do all this stuff," and you're like,
"You don't know."
Yeah, the line of defense is, "Oh my God, it's not as great as you think it is," and then the second line is, "Well, sometimes it is."
I don't know that it's not great. It's just it's not what you think it is from the outside. Yeah.
Yes, it's work.
But I mean, honestly, your role, I get it now that I'm not trying to be an actor, and it's super cool. And you are facilitating people's dreams, meeting their favorite people up close. That's something that some people that's the best moment of their week or their month or their year.
My gosh. Oh my gosh. I mean, yes. And when you can do that, and without having to kind of sacrifice, anything besides yourself, besides your time. Sure. And so that is just a happy byproduct of the industry that I'm in, that I found myself in, that I worked to be in. But then, you also pay the bills, and you also, there are certain things that it's also, you lessons learned through life. And we just kind of go from there. Right
on. Okay, so I was going to ask, but I already know the answer. You probably haven't gone to a Fan Expo in any costume ever.
Nope.
Okay, fair. Anyway, what did I miss anything? I think we got it. Okay, we're going to have links to get a hold of Dana and Vocal Group. Thank you so much for coming down and reaching out. And this is awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I'd like to thank Dana Cobb. You can check out her links in the show notes. Opening theme song, Celine Nurala, Unstoppable, and the closing theme song, Electric Ants, The Place to Be. Thank you to the Mullen & Mullen Music Project for supporting this podcast. We'd also like to thank the Deep Ellum Community Center for letting us record there. You can catch the Dallas Famous podcast every Sunday at 1 o'clock on Deep Ellum Radio, and then Wednesday on all the podcast platforms. Please like, subscribe, enjoy, share, all the good things. We'll see you next time.